Welcome to the Prophecy Club. We're going to continue talking about Revelation today. As you know, I have been talking about me memorizing the book of Revelation, and as I've also explained to you, I've now finished that. I'm now going back and getting it down a little deeper, moving it from level 3 to level 4 to level 5, where I really have it. But in the meantime, I'm continuing to get Revelations. I plan to make a DVD called Revelations on Revelation, but we're not taking any pre-orders until I actually make the DVD. However, and I'm still getting a lot of really good revelations, but I don't want to get into all of those revelations, but I do think it is important for you to understand as much about Revelation before you get the DVD, because I'm sure once you understand really what's in that DVD, when I explain it, everybody's going to have it. I mean, I think it is going to be one of the most important works of my 24 years of being in the ministry. So hopefully you would believe me and get that DVD. But in the meantime, I think it's important that everybody understand the basics of Revelation, the things that I'm not going to be talking about. At least right now, I do not think I'm going to have time to go through teaching all the way through Revelation verse by verse all again. So, I mean, the Revelations is not going to be teaching Revelation verse by verse. It's just going to be on the Revelations. So let me explain to you what I'm about to do. I'm going to take the next several broadcasts and I'm going to play a large portion of the DVD, Revelation verse by verse, basically giving you a lot of information because it's important for you to understand that information so that you can understand the Revelations on Revelation DVD when that comes out. Because, I mean, if I say, well, let me tell you who the two witnesses are, and I start going into that, and if you aren't familiar with the scriptures already, it's going to be, well, you're going to be playing catch up. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. The next several broadcasts, I'm going to be playing the audio of the DVD from my DVD, Revelation verse by verse. I think it's very important that, of course, you listen to the broadcast, but even more important that you get the DVD. So we are making probably the best offer on that particular DVD set that we have ever offered. I'm looking up at some of the past offers. We have, first of all, it's 8 hours, 4 DVDs, valued at $120, and in the past we've offered it for a gift of $75. We're going to offer it for an amazing offer today, for this particular week. First of all, the topics. What is the message of the 7 churches? Who are the 4 horsemen? Is Revelation layered or sequential when it goes through the seals and the trumpets and the vials? Is it 1 through 21, or is it like a 3-layered cake where 111 plays about the same time as 222? I answer that. Who are the beasts from the sea, the earth, and the pit? What does is fallen mean? What does it look like the day Jesus returns? How long is the day of the Lord? Is that a year, a month, 1 evening, 1 morning? What is that? Who is the woman who rides the beast? Who's the false prophet? Does the New Jerusalem come down at the end of 6,000 years or at the end of 7,000 years? When do we get our mansions? Are there 1 or 2 judgments upon America? When is the door shut to the 5 virgins? Does everyone who survives Armageddon get a glorified body? 2/3 of mankind is killed in the tribulation. What happens to the other 1/3? Again, 8 hours, 4 DVDs. Normally, well, it's valued at $120. In the past, we've offered it for a gift of $75. But today, this particular week, we're going to be offering it for a gift of just $30. $30, Revelation verse by verse, and Revelation verse by verse. And you can go to prophecyclub.com and order it, or you can call us, 785-266-1112. Now, let's go on over to me going through Revelation verse by verse in the DVD.
Chapter 6. Now we're about to open the seals. Here comes the first seal. Now we're about to start right up here in the top left-hand corner of this particular chart. Now, it will go through the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th seals. Then it will come back down and explain the 7 trumpets, then the 7 vials. Now let's go to Revelation 6. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were the noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, "Come and see."
And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him. And he went forth conquering and to conquer. Now, the question is, what is the white horse? Oh man, I've heard all kinds of explanations. I believe the white horse is a future pope. Why do I say that? Well, St. Malachi actually was shown a vision, I don't know, in one of the other DVDs I've got all the exact information, but I didn't want to put it in here. I'm just going to kind of breeze through it. Back in 538 BC or AD, he was shown a vision of 112 popes. And he was shown that the 112th pope will be the false prophet. And the interesting part is this last pope, they tried to dodge around the prophecy. This last pope that they chose specifically to upset the prophecy. And then once they'd chosen him, then information came out that revealed once again he was right. He's been right 111 times, and so we have to believe that he's going to be right at the 112th time. So I believe that the white horse is Catholicism. Now, am I saying that the Catholic Church is bad? I'm saying the Baptist churches or the Episcopalians or the Nazarene, we all have something wrong in every church, and for that matter, we all have something wrong in our personal beliefs. We don't all have it all correct. However, this particular person, this pope, I believe is going to hijack or basically take over the office of a pope. Now, why do I say that? It says he's a white horse. Okay, so as you look around the world, the only leader that is in a top world global leadership position that wears white almost all of the time in public, that would be the Pope. But if you look also, it says, it was given him a bow. Okay, well, what's wrong? What's missing? Well, every bow has to have an arrow. Every arrow has to have a bow. But this guy's given a bow, but no arrows. In other words, I believe it's saying he doesn't have a military. He controls militaries because the Pope is the one that gives the crown to the 10 toes of Europe, or the 10 kings, or the 10 kingdoms of Europe. They get that crown from the Pope. You go and do some research, and you can find pictures, as I have, of the Pope placing that crown on the head of those people in Europe. So he's given a bow, but he's not given any arrows. He's given a crown. He's given authority. And the Pope, especially this next one, is going to rule over a lot of people. And this is also confirmed by what the angel spoke to Dimitri Duduman. However, he's not given a military. And a crown was given unto him. And he went forth conquering and to conquer. So wait a minute, Stan, you just said he didn't have a military. He doesn't have a military. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't control many kingdoms that do have militaries. And I think you're going to see that the Pope is going to be a large part, the primary part, of what is going to shed many martyrs and many saints' blood in the future. Now let's go on to the next one. The second seal. Revelation 6:3. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, Come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given unto him to sit thereon to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. Which one? What's this talking about? Is this talking about World War III? No, I don't think so. I think that this is talking about the early wars described in Daniel when the Antichrist takes over. Now, the Antichrist does not get his kingdom by conquest. It's not that he conquers nations. He gets it by flatteries. He comes to power as a man of peace. But Daniel says that as soon as he's in power, he begins a war. As a matter of fact, we know he goes down and attacks Egypt. There's 2 or 3 other wars listed there in Daniel. And if you'll get my Daniel verse by verse, I'll go through that. But that's another rabbit trail. We're going to stay on Revelation tonight. He's given the authority to take peace from the earth. Why would God allow peace to be taken from the earth? A war to come. You see, everyone has to be tried so that the garments can be made white, so that all the spots and wrinkles can be removed. He's given a great sword. And this particular angel, this particular spirit, goes forth to take peace from the earth and to kill. Now, who is this? I believe that is talking about communism. If you look in Daniel chapter 7, you see that there is a bear, and it says, "Thus unto the bear, arise and devour much flesh." We know that the Russian bear is part of what comes down and does attack America in World War III, surprise nuclear attack, the fall of America, according to Dmitri Dudin. And the angel that spoke to him said the fall of America would start with an internal revolution started by the communists. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. The government will be busy with internal problems. Then from the oceans, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, Mexico, and two of the countries will attack and defeat America. In 1 hour and 1 day, Revelation 18, Jeremiah 50, 51, and other chapters in the Bible will all be fulfilled, and America will fall. Now, that's another topic. We'll get into that later. I believe that this is tied together with communism. So I put red, communism, sword. These colors are very important. Now let's move on. Let's go to the third seal, Revelation 6:5. "And when he had opened the third seal, I heard a third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat upon him had a pair of balances in his hand." That's important, remember that. "And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." Okay, what's the black horse? Ask yourself this. In all of the world, what is the one thing that uses weights and measures? Well, it has to be commerce. In other words, you get so much gasoline, you get so many gallons of gasoline for so much, you get so many pounds of concrete or so many pounds of peanuts, whatever it might be. And it's all having to do with purchasing things. So this is saying, I believe, this is referring to capitalism. It's talking about depression. It's talking about inflation. It's talking about basically what it says, a measure of wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley for a penny, is basically saying that people work all day long for just enough food for just 1 day. So this pair of balances tells us that this has to do with commerce. However, notice it goes on to say, "See thou hurt not the oil and the wine." Okay, it's already talking about wheat and barley. Those are things that we eat. Oil and wine, those are things that we consume. Now, why would it say oil? Okay, that could be talking about crude oil. Could be talking about the vine. Could be talking about literally wine. Or there could be another meaning. I looked up the word oil. In the New Testament, it's found 11 times. Matthew 25:3 says that they were the foolish, took their lamps, and took no oil with them. So the thing that the virgins had, the 5 that got in, they had oil. The thing that the virgins didn't have that didn't get in was oil. What is the oil? I believe that oil to be works. Now, we're not saved by works. We all know that. However, once we are saved, we're expected to serve the Lord. I mean, that's the whole purpose and the whole point behind the talents. Again, we won't get into that rabbit trail. Then I looked up wine. 29 times it's found in the New Testament. For example, Matthew 9:17 says, "Neither do men put new wine into old bottles." Then you go down to Acts 2:13. Now, this is on the day of Pentecost. And it says, "Others mocking said, These men are full of new wine." So here's an example where wine is referenced as the Holy Spirit. So if the 5 virgins got in, had oil, and then the people on the morning of Pentecost, the people when they were speaking in tongues, the thing that they thought they were full of was new wine. Maybe what it's talking about is oil is reference to they are saved. Wine is referring to they're filled with the Holy Ghost. In my opinion, when it says do not hurt the oil in the wine, it's saying do not hurt those people that are saved and filled with the Holy Ghost. Now let's look at the 4th seal. Revelation 6:7. "And when he had opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th beast say, Come and see. And I looked and beheld a pale horse. And his name that sat upon him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given him unto over the 4th part of the earth to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth." Now, if you want to understand who the pale horse is, we can't look at all of the people that he kills in the sword and hunger and death and beasts of the earth and things like that. We have to look at the color. If you look up the word pale in the Greek there, it is kaloros. If you look up that word, it's referring to green. I believe the accurate color of the pale horse would really be the green horse. Okay, so who are the people that use green? I believe that the colors are very important. White is Catholicism, red is communism, black is capitalism or depression. However, I believe it's going to say that green or kaloros is referring to Muslims or Islam. They have the sword and they have death. Why do you say that? Well, I've actually done some pretty good research on this. I'm believing that I can show you that Daniel's leopard and Revelation's pale horse are in fact the same. In other words, kind of like the red horse is also communism. The white horse is the Pope. All right, now why do I say that? I looked this up. Snow leopards, for example, have very unique qualities and very unique ways that they live. They go undetected. They are stalkers. When our boys went over to Afghanistan and over to Iraq, they'll tell you that the first wave of the M1A1 Abrams tanks passed by and no one tried to shoot them. And then come the tankers bringing water and fuel, and then they would attack them. In other words, the leopard attacks by stabbing you in the back. The leopard doesn't like to fight face on. The leopard likes to wait until you've walked on by and then hit you over the head or stab you in the back. They tend to hunt at night. Now, I don't think Muslims hunt at night. They don't have night vision goggles. But what it's saying is that they're stealthy. One of the phrases that the Muslims like to use is run to live another day. Run to fight another day. In other words, they will shoot at the convoy and then they run to try to get away to fight another day. They don't like fighting face to face. And when they fight face to face, especially against the U.S. military, they don't do too well. They also hide in the brush, the rocks, trees, and caves. They are generally outmatched. The snow leopard lives. Now listen to this. Almost exactly where the primary area of where the Muslims live, I'll show you the map, is also where the leopards live. Almost exactly. They live in mountain ranges in Central and South Asia. For example, Obadiah 1:3 says, "The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock." Well, of course, Osama bin Laden, as we know, was reportedly hiding in Bora Bora, the caves there, and that's the reason the U.S. military couldn't catch him for so long. In other words, many of the Muslims, in a great time of distress, tend to live in caves and in rocks. In other words, if you summarize that, on the left side you see the leopard. The leopard runs when confronted, lone hunters, never organized, they're nocturnal, they're opportunistic, they're stealthy hunters. Also, Islam, or the Muslims, they're faceless. They prefer to fight with IED and traps and mortars. They're loners, seldom organized, they're nocturnal, opportunistic, seldom attack the face, attack your back, stealthy hunters, blend in with the population, and live by the sword. Now this is straight out of some of Muhammad's writing. It says, Muhammad taught his followers to advance the cause of Allah by the use of the sword. Waged relentless wars of conquest against Christians, Jews, and pagans. Their battle cry, now listen to this. I think that this one absolutely positively proves that the pale horse is Islam. The pale horse ties back to Daniel chapter 7. It's the leopard. Before you is paradise, and behind you are death and hell. Now look at those words, death and hell. This is what Muhammad said. This is what the founder of Islam said. Before you is paradise, and behind you are death and hell. Now look at what the scripture says. A pale horse, and his name that sat upon him was death and hell, followed with him. Use the same words, almost exactly the same phraseology. In other words, the Daniel leopard is the pale horse of Revelation chapter 6, the Antichrist. Now, if you'll see here, I've put a face on this pale horse here because I believe that that's what the Antichrist is going to look like. Habakkuk 1:6 says, I raise up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation, which shall march through the breadth of the land to possess the dwelling places that are not theirs. That's the Muslims. They are terrible and dreadful, more fierce than the evening wolves. Obadiah 1:10 says, "For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever." The interesting thing is the word violence is Strong's reference number 2555, and the word is Hamas. Well, have we ever heard of Hamas? Yes, that's an Islamic organization. Now, what does Hamas mean? It means violence, wrong, cruelty, or injustice. Daniel 9:11 says, "Yea, all Israel have transgressed the law, even by departing, that they may not obey thy voice. Therefore the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him." And if you look up the word for curse in the Hebrew, it is Strong's reference number 0423, and the word is Allah. In other words, when Israel or America or anyone else transgresses the law, then the curse of Allah gets poured upon them. Basically, that says either we choose Jesus or we get Allah. So my contention is the leopard is the pale horse. The pale horse is the leopard. Now, I said that the leopards live where the Muslims live, and the Muslims live where the leopard lives. The highest concentrations. And the highest concentrations of the Muslims are in Libya, Egypt, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. Also, the highest concentration of leopards live in the same places. This particular map is what I believe is the leopard. If you look at the leopard has 4 wings, meaning 4 nations, has 4 heads. I believe these are the 4 nations. Now, if you look at Libya, Egypt, Syria, Iraq, and Iran, you say, wait a minute, Stan, that's not 4 nations. That's 5 nations, yes? But Iraq, Iran, according to the statute of Daniel chapter 2, were the arms of silver. Iraq, Iran counted as 1 nation. I believe that is the caliphate. That is the leopard, and that is the area that the pale horse will originally ride from, although it won't just stop there. If you look at a global map, you see area number 7. The green area there is where the Muslims live, primarily, and it's also where the snow leopards live, primarily. If you look at the different colors in the flags, now in the other DVDs I've covered this more in detail, but we'll move quickly through this. If you look at the Christian flags, the primary color you see is blue. If you look at the communist flags of Russia 1954, Turkmenistan, Soviet Union, Uzbekistan, their color is primarily red. But if you look at the Islamic, the Muslim nations, their primary color is green. Now, in the other DVD I've gone into much more explanation on that, but suffice to say, to summarize the 4 horsemen, with good reason I believe, the white horse will be the next pope. The red horse will be Russia. The black horse will be capitalism. And by the way, most capitalism is a Western function. We run it, we rule it. So there's your Western powers. And then the green horse is Islam. In other words, your Pope is going to be the beast from the earth, the 112th Pope, Peter the Roman. The pale horse will be the Antichrist. He will head the beast from the sea. He will be the beast from the pit, or the 12th Imam, or the Mahdi. Now, in what order do the judgments of Revelation play? You see, one of the things that makes Revelation so complicated is people think that these judgments, or 21 judgments, play 1 through 21. That's what messes people up. They don't play that way. They play at the same time. In other words, 1, 1, 1, I'll show them in just a second with my chart here, and then 2, 2, 2 play about the same time, and then 3, and then 4s, all of the 5s, all of the 6s, and then finally the 7s. They play from top to bottom, not from left to right. The seals, the trumpets, all play, and then, of course, Jesus returns in the 7th. In other words, if you look at this chart, you see across the top, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, those are the trumpets. Then if you see down on the left-hand side, you see the first seal, the first trumpet, the first vial. They play not exactly the same time, but pretty close to. Then you see the second seal, second trumpet, second vial. Well, Stan, why do you say that? Well, that's a good question. If you look over at the
right side, you see in the top right corner, Revelation 8:5 says, the angel throws fire to the earth, and there's a great earthquake. Well, we know that when Jesus returns, part of what he does is burn up the tares. That has to do with burning up the tares, and that's a sign that Jesus is returning. Jesus returns towards the end of the sixth seal, and it is the returning of the seventh seal. Then if you drop down a little bit lower, you see that there's the seventh trumpet. This is when the angel with the little book sets his right foot on the sea, his left foot on the earth. He raises his hands and he says, there is time no longer. Well, what is time no longer? That means that we go into eternity. So we can't have anything in terms of tribulation after that. So that has to be the end. Then it says the mystery of God is finished. The angel says that. What does it mean when the mystery of God is finished? It means that all prophecies are fulfilled. That's when John eats the little book. We're going to get into more of this here in just a little bit. So what does it mean when John eats the little book? I believe the little book is the title deed to the earth. When Adam and Eve ate of the fruit, they lost possession of the earth. Well, Stan, what do you mean, possession of the earth? Well, in Job, God called a meeting. And he said,
And unfortunately, I'm going to have to interrupt right there, but I do encourage you to get this. As I said, I'm going to be making a new DVD called Revelations on Revelation. And in preparation for that DVD being released at some point in hopefully the next few months, it's important for you to understand the basics of Revelation because I'm not going to be covering that in that new DVD. This is going to be totally new information. I'm not going to be covering Revelation verse by verse. In preparation for the new DVD, I recommend you get this DVD, Revelation verse by verse, if you don't already have it. 612 slides, 212 pictures, 10 charts. You will thoroughly understand Revelation in preparation for the next one on Revelation. It's 4 DVDs, 8 hours, valued at $120. In the past, we've offered it for a gift of $75, but today you can get it for a gift of $30. 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. Revelation verse by verse, 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. It's going to be really, really good. I recommend you get it. Thanks for listening. Thank you for your prayers, and thank you for your gifts of support. God bless. Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. Lindsey Williams has just come out with his newest DVD titled How Trump Changed Elite Plans. How Trump changed elite plans, and he did. Topics: be prepared to view the most shocking DVD I've ever made. Nothing like this has happened in 6,000 years. Something catastrophic is beginning to develop. It will change your life forever and the life of your children and grandchildren. This is the most important information I've ever given about the future. Called How Trump Changed Elite Plans at prophecyclub.com. Available for shipping now. Brian Melvin did an excellent job making this DVD called Hell in a Box and From Hell to Heaven. Excellent talk. I've heard about 30 some odd talks of people that have passed on, some to heaven, some to hell. This is one of the best ones. This held my attention all the way through. Now look, just as archaeology can be really powerful to win people to Christ, and you need that. You need this DVD in your hands to show people this will convince people. I'm saying this will convince the skeptic to get saved very powerfully. You want this DVD and this book, Hell in a Box and Hell to Heaven, and the book, A Land Unknown, Hell's Dominion. DVD gift of 30, book gift of 20, both for a gift of 45, prophecyclub.com or 785-266-1112. The Hell gift offer. Keep them out of it with the Hell gift offer. prophecyclub.com, 785-266-1112.